This here is the LEGO Star Wars set 75342, the Republic Fighter Tank. It launched in 2022 and contained 262 pieces for a retail price of $40 in the US. And for those who might scoff at the price per piece there, we're going to investigate whether or not this set is actually worth those $40, especially when you compare to some other recent LEGO Star Wars sets. Now, among other things, this set does contain a pretty impressive minifigure selection for that $39.99 price point. We'll start by taking a look at the Mace Windu figure that is included in this set, and my goodness, is this ever a nice one. As you can see here, we've got flawless hip to leg to waist printing here. We've got arm printing with a Republic or a Jedi insignia on his armor there. A really good representation of the Clone Wars era Mace Windu, although not necessarily based off of the Clone Wars TV show itself. It's more of a hybrid between live action and animation, but still easily the best Mace Windu figure I've ever had. Certainly one to keep for the collection, and if you're going to throw a Jedi in a set like this, that's one way to do it for certain. Not complaining there. Next, we have our 187th Commander. He really does just look like an airborne trooper, but if you look closely, he does have the printed waist cape that signifies his commander rank. You know, since they don't do the cloth pieces, though, it's not super noticeable. So if you want to mask this set, you can really just pretend that this is a 187th Airborne Trooper. Considering that these 187th Troopers aren't even canon anyways, you can really pretend that this is a mastable Airborne Trooper if you want to buy multiples of this set. But he's got some really nice detail on his chest. He's got one black and one purple chest plate there. He's got like this little dark tan sort of sash or carabiner detail there. Really just nice looking figure. He's got that great airborne helmet as well with some purple on him. If you take a look at the back of his torso, he has that strap continued back there. Just a nice looking figure. We lament the non-cloth waist cape always. However, I mean, if you want to also just switch his legs out, maybe with one of the other 187th Troopers in this set, that would work too. Speaking of, here is that 187th Trooper. He's just a very nice looking figure here with some purple accents all around. Really reminds me of a shock trooper, and I think that is indeed the way they went with this. Pretty much just shock trooper, but in purple. But hey, who's complaining, am I right? They do look very good. And of note, I think this is actually the last time they made the clone troopers without the helmet holes in this Phase 2 style. So no blemishes there, and they didn't really need the helmet holes, so I'm glad that that was the way that they went. No helmet holes. You won't be able to customize these guys by putting visors or anything on them, but they never included any purple visors anyways, and there are two of these guys. The 5th and 6th inclusions in this set are battle droids. You've seen them all before. These ones sport the gunmetal gray blasters like they have been doing the last few years for battle droids. Given the lack of separatist sets that they've really come out with recently, I guess it's a nice way to kind of, throw something in there for you to have an enemy for all your clone sets. They've been kind of just doing this with several of the sets lately. Just throw a couple battle droids in. I guess no one would really complain, right? And certainly you can never have enough of those guys. So all around, really an A+ figure selection. I really can hardly think of what they could have done better. Obviously you could say more clones, more droids, more this, more that. Super battle droids, sure, all of that would have been nice, but if we're being realistic, that is about the best that we could hope for a $40 set having 3 clones, a Jedi, and 2 droids. I would say it harkens back to the older days of Clone Wars sets, but really, I mean, we never had it quite this good. They always seem to skimp out on the clones, at least in most of the non-battle pack sets, so it's nice to see a healthy amount of them here. Moving on to the main dish, however, this is our $40 Republic Fighter Tank. This is the mid-size option of the 3 Republic Fighter Tanks they've done. Back in the day, there was a bulkier one. A few years ago, I believe in 2017 or 2018, they had one that was like a $25 one that was very small. This one sits at $40, which I think is a nice price point for these fighter tanks. And I think aesthetically, it does look pretty nice, and it gets the impression of the fighter tank across. Now, much has been made of this cockpit piece here being used, which kind of adds this sort of beer belly, you could say. Maybe a baby bump to it, or maybe just a really fat nose, depending on how you look at it. I always kind of saw this as a face with the eyes right here. But either way, it is a fair criticism. It does bump out a bit. It is supposed to, if you look at the sort of in-universe or the reference photos, it is supposed to bump out a bit. This is a bit much, however. And speaking of that cockpit, that brings us to one of the features, which is you can open up the cockpit here and put a tank driver in. We'll use one of our 187th guys to do that. Unfortunately, it is a pretty featureless cockpit, not to mention he does have to kind of lean back in order to fit. You can see he's leaned forward. It's not going to quite work. I got to kind of push him back there, get his hands out of the way, and now it fits as snug as can be. And the main, or I think what should be the main criticism of this piece usage here is that with the stoppers that they have here, there's rail pieces at the top to stop it from closing. There's just a gap there that is really noticeable. I mean, I know there's always going to be gaps in Lego sets, but this one is just egregious in my opinion, and man, I really wish they could have designed their way around this. Another thing that I could complain about here is that the white of the stickers is just a purer white than the parts, which kind of makes your white pieces look yellowed even when they're not. And when it comes to stickers on this set, there certainly are quite a few of them. Most of them are white detail pieces that go on pretty easy. We can always complain that they're not printed pieces, but I do think the detail they add looks very, very good. Especially, I mean, the cockpit, they probably wouldn't have been able to print like that. Some of these other ones, you can certainly make the argument that they could have done so. I still, however, really like the effect of these, especially if you were careful in applying them. They do look really, really good. Design-wise, over here on each side, these are actually supposed to represent missile batteries. No missiles included, interestingly. I think this would have actually been a good spot for the spring-loaded shooters that we get in this set. Kind of odd that they didn't do that. I suppose I should point out one of the biggest design flaws here, which is these little, I don't know if they're they strike me as cutlasses or something. Maybe that's not the right kind of sword, but you get the idea. These antenna pieces that just kind of use a bar to fit into the hollow studs here, they're not the tightest, and they do like to have a mind of their own. I feel like they included these specifically because of the better connection with the bar instead of just putting an antenna that attaches via studs, but I don't feel that it is accomplished very well, and they still fall off quite a bit. I really like the overall color combinations of this set. It's always been a highlight of the Republic fighter tanks. The dark red, the white, and the lime green just look so good together. But for some reason, they included regular trans red spring-loaded shooters that you can see right there. I set one off by accident. That shows you how easy they are to set off. They have lime green ones, and that would have been a better match for a Republic set, and I think the overall color scheme. There is a back ramp that opens up. You won't be walking any figures through there, but it is something that is movable. In addition, you have side turrets that rotate up and down very easily, and you have a hatch that opens at the top. You can see how that works. There's no mechanism to come up and down, but there is a control panel there, and we can stick Mace Windu on our studs here, and it is like he is driving the tank here like he did in the Battlefront games, I believe. So there is no real good way to fit him in there with the hatch closed, but I certainly don't mind that. I don't think it's a really necessary thing to begin with. And you can see how often these pieces just fall off. Though there are some highs and lows with the design, I feel like overall the team did a good job of making this a very aesthetically pleasing fighter tank. It also rolls along pretty well on studs, courtesy of the wheels on the bottom. I really just like the color usage and the parts usage. Like these tiles up here that just add a really nice little diamond shape. Examples like that are what make this, I think, a pretty aesthetically pleasing fighter tank, although there are some obvious flaws in it, I guess. The minifigure selection is also excellent. Can't really recommend that enough. If you're going to mass an army of these, you're going to end up with a lot of Mace Windus, but it's just kind of a thing that happens. They like to include Jedi in these sets, and he is a logical inclusion in this one, and a great figure, honestly. Just a really good Mace Windu. Overall, I have to say I do recommend this set at $40. If you can find it on sale, that's better. However, it is a Target exclusive, so that might be kind of rough. In general, though, I recommend picking it up before it retires at the end of this year. It's just a really nice Clone Wars set with some really high quality clone figures, excluding the lack of a cloth waist cape for our commander there. Add a couple of droids and an overall nice build, I think. And you've got a really good, solid set that I think fans of the Clone Wars Episode 3 era should definitely pick up before it leaves shelves permanently. Thanks for watching this review. I will see you guys in my next video. Goodbye.